Hello, I'm Hannah Martin from Talent Ladies Club, and I'm with Jaz Ampaw-Farr. Hello, Jaz.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. It's so lovely to talk to you.
I know you too, face to face, because I read a lot about what you write, but face to face is fun.
Yes, and of course I've seen you on TV before, so.
Yeah, I hope you're mentioning one of my successes. Right? I've had a lot of TV failures.
Well, that makes life interesting. We've all got failures, some more public than others. But...
Yeah, that's true.
So for those who you don't know, Jaz was on The Apprentice a few years ago, weren't you?
Absolutely. But you know what's interesting at the minute, because I talk about that because I was fired in the first week. Yeah. You can't, you put my name into Google, it's just videos of me crying and Lord Sugar shouting at me. Underneath that, some really good stuff on like literacy and stuff, but prior to that. But also, 20 years ago, I was on Blind Date. I was a picker on Blind Date. And I picked a guy and went to Austria. And then for the next 9 years, it was on the worst of Blind Date. They have every year, the best of Blind Date. It was in the worst category as the worst date that ever happened. For 9 years.
Oh, really? Why was it a bad date?
He left me in a romantic restaurant and went for a McDonald's. He threw his napkin down and said, "Do you want to bring him back, love?" And he climbed out the toilet window, went to McDonald's and came back with a Big Mac in a bag. And that was a highlight. That was a good bit. So yeah,
you're not married to him now.
No, funnily enough, no, we didn't see each other after. But it's just that my life is full of, because I say yes first and work out the details after. There are some pretty big failures available. I've got a great failure CV. Also, the success is married to it.
But that is so important. And I think as a lesson in life or business, I do that. You just say yes and work out how you'll do it afterwards. And sometimes it fails, but you learn so much doing it. And sometimes it goes spectacularly well, but you won't have the spectacular successes if you don't take the risk of the failures.
It's true. And I find as well, I am at my best in terms of being resourceful. I mean, when I say yes first, I'm not like if someone says, "Can you do brain surgery?" I'm like, "I'm your woman." And then, "What's this for?" I mean, clearly say yes to things that within your realms of possibility. But having said that, sometimes you have to be prepared to let someone else's faith in you be enough. Someone else's vision of your success be enough. Because if I only did the things I thought I could do, I wouldn't be doing anything.
Exactly. You never leave your comfort zone. It's this really safe place. But if you go beyond it, it's a really small world to live in, isn't it?
Well, do you know what? That world is fine because a lot of people work very hard to get safety and security. These are basic human needs, aren't they? But you can't grow if you're focused on a problem or if you're in survival mode with blinkers. You can only go in one direction, and your why is fear. And if your why is about, if your sense of purpose, if your drive is about avoiding pain, it's all about fear, then the decisions you make limit what's possible for you. And I know I want to live my best life. I want to live my best life for me, for my kids, for my husband, for my colleagues, for my friends, for my family. So that requires me to do stuff that my imposter syndrome is like rife about. But I said this, and I said this in my TED talk, nothing will change until your desire to make a difference is bigger and stronger and more powerful than your fear of trying. And until that happens, nothing will change. So be happy with what it is, or get ready to be uncomfortable.
And I love your TED talk. And I particularly your story is amazing. It's incredible, isn't it? Where you've come from and where you now are so far apart, aren't they?
Because I'm right at the minute. It's like I've got a book deal, so I'm just finishing my book. And in a way, people say, when they hear my story, they say, "Oh my God, that's amazing." And actually, it's normal. It's just normal, because I live with that. I've lived with that, and I think sometimes I find it quite hard to kind of see. And I think this is what we do in business. We find it hard to see what we've got as being resourceful or precious or valuable to anyone else, because it just is what it is. And that's how I got into it, because I was a teacher and I was doing like literacy consultancy, which I still do, and I had turned up at a talk planning to deliver the same old talk, and there was 300 teachers there, and halfway through, it's like a networking teaching meeting, and I was sat in my seat and I was looking at these teachers, and I just couldn't shake this question in my mind: what if I just told the truth? And I can't tell you, Hannah, because I've spent my entire life crafting this image of success, which to me, from what I can see in teaching, if you want to be a leader, it means you've got to be more middle class and more white and not possibly male. I've got quite big hands, so I can pass the band thing. I could do middle class if I don't talk or share any opinions. But the white thing has always eluded me. But in my head, what I was trying to do is what I was told at teacher training college: try and blend in more. Try and be like, normal. Try and be like everyone else. And that was the holy grail. So in my personal life, everybody knows about my past, but in my professional life, I've lied. I've literally hidden the truth about myself for fear of what people might think if they found out. So I play a game because I think that's what has happened. And I stand on this stage and think, what if I just told the truth? And I told the truth. And it just went massive. I had no idea. It's like suddenly, it's like when someone says, oh, it's your round. You put your hand in your pocket and you pull out like a £50 note that you've been saving and you've got. And everyone's like, oh my God, it's a £50 note. And you're like, yeah. It's like it's just a £50 note. You don't realise. So because I was one of those kids. I was, a disadvantaged. There's always buzzwords for the poor kids. But we were poor and neglected. I grew up in foster care. Before that, I lived with my grandma and granddad. And then my mum took us away, married a hideous human being. We lived in a brothel. We lived in a squat. Dad. And that was just the norm. That was just the norm of my life from 7 years old. That was who I was. And I was very sure, growing up, very sure that I was worthless and cheap and dirty and guilty and a belonging. And I didn't deserve anything that humans deserved. I'm not really human. My existence is it's my job to do this. And I believe that. And obviously, you imagine what sort of child I was, but also growing up as a teenager and a young woman with that as my foundation, that belief as my foundation.
So what turned that around? Because clearly you are accomplished and confident and empowered now. So what do you think made the biggest difference for you?
This is what I'm writing about, because I always want to, like when I do the talks, when I share my story, people always go, teachers especially, oh, tell us what happened so we can do it. And it's like when you just buy the resources, like you buy that gingerbread making kit you get every Christmas with a picture on the front. It looks like Nigella's done it. Then you give it to your 3 kids and they make a hash of it. And you're like, why did I spend the 10 quid? Because we could have just smashed a load of biscuits and that's what it would have looked like. Yeah. It's not like there's a roadmap, but I have searched my soul for anything, and the only thing I can put it down to is the power of the other, the kindness of people who don't need to be kind. For me, it was 5 teachers who saw beyond the behaviour and met. It was a power struggle with me. I had to assert power at school because that's how you get by. That's how you don't get hurt. And the teachers that matched that or argued with that, we were just locked in a power struggle. But there were 5 teachers who just, like I would say, oh, you're rubbish anyway, I hate you. And she'd be like, yeah, sometimes I have bad days, yeah. And so there's nothing to argue about. So it kind of shifted my state. And what they did is that they believed in me and they just stood shoulder to shoulder with me. They didn't do anything massive. I mean, 1 or 2 did, but it was just the fact that they were, by not saying you're worthy, they made me feel worthy by doing the little things that we think has no consequence. But some kids who are loved at home come to school to learn, and kids who aren't come to school in the vague hope that somebody will recognize them as a human being and validate and acknowledge them, because that's the ultimate need. And that's what they did. And there was only 5, but luckily for me, they were interspersed. So I had 1 in Key Stage 1, 1 in Key Stage 2, 1 in secondary, 1 in sixth form, 1 in teacher training college, who without I would be dead. No exaggeration. And
but someone's been looking after you and just making sure these people were always in place at the right time.
Yeah, maybe that. Because when I look at it, I think how do I, because the mindset that I have now is very much, and it's been nurtured and grown, but it's very much about, people will just settle for stuff. People say, that's just the way it is. Like I went out with a couple of friends a couple of weeks ago for dinner, and we're talking about our relationships, and it transpires both of them have pretty dodgy relationship, pretty poor, in terms of equality. And they both said, well, that's just how it is. And I'm like, yeah, but surely it's a choice, isn't it? We can choose to be different. We can establish new, we can build something else. And they said, well, Jaz, you've got false expectations. And I thought, I'd rather have false expectations than just say, well, I think that's a really dangerous sentence. It's always been like that. It's like, well, that's not evidence-based research, is it? It's always been like that. Yeah. That's just you saying, doing something different require more energy, more focus, more belief. And I haven't got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. And I just think, leaving things as they are, when the fact that I'm alive is because people interjected, as opposed to just saying, well, that's how it is. Am I talking too much? I talk a lot. Can I tell you one story which kind of illustrates this? And it's because I have this thing about, when I was 9, we found a dog, me and my brother. I like to say we rescued it, but we just manhandled it into our house. And you needed a license at the time to have a dog. So we got grassed up by some family down the road. And before long, 2 guys turned up with a stick and a hoop to get the dog. Knocked on the door. This is like in the 80s where you could just walk into someone's house. Knocked on the door. I opened the door. Is your mum in? I said no, because she was in, but she was in the back room, spaced out of her head on alcohol and drugs. So there's no point in me saying she was there. So he came in to the front row, which is where we were allowed. It's like an Oliver Twist movie set. There's drugs and drink on the floor. There's syringes. There's human bodily fluids everywhere, because this was the party room for after the pubs closed, and we weren't allowed in the other room because that's where it had the telly. The floor is smashed. The lino's pulled up. The wall is all smeared with stuff. There's a 2-bar fire. Only 1 bar walks, and breakfast is on the floor, which is a handful of broken biscuits on a plate. And I'm sitting there with my brother and my baby brother and our dog. And this man, his face comes in, and it turns from like indignant, I'm doing my job, to one of like disgust. And he takes our dog away, and he looks around the house before he leaves. He looks at us, my 9-year-old, I was 9, my 7-year-old, the baby. And he looked me dead in the eye and said, this house is not fit for a dog to live in. And then he left with our dog. And I remember my brother saying to me, where's he taking Lady? And I said, he's taking Lady to someone who can look after them. And all I could think of is, why isn't he taking me? Because it's true what my parents say, I'm worth less than a dog. Now, the reason I tell that story is because that guy, for a long time, I was going to hunt him down and kill him, because he could have saved us and he didn't. But actually what I realised, when I'm able to be compassionate, I always think, what would I say if I was able to be compassionate? He was doing what he thought was highest and best. What he didn't know is that there is always an opportunity to go higher and better. It doesn't require more effort, it requires a different mindset. And what's highest and best for him is save the dog, because he's right, that dog was not fit, that house was not fit for a dog. Save the dog. Do your job. Do what you paid for. Do the minimum. Do what you're expected. And no more. Do less if you can, but no more than that. Fit into the mold. Don't contribute above and beyond. Just do. And actually, higher and better means you engage more. It means you do stuff that you don't have to do, that you're not paid to do. It means you're human first. And I think, I've always thought about that in business. I've always thought about, what sort of business owner do I want to be? Do I want to be someone who does the bare minimum? Or do I want to be someone who invests in higher and better? Because that's what I want for my clients. I want not more, not harder, just higher and better, the best you. And that everything is driven by that. Everything is driven by this desire I have to be a catalyst for change, to open doors, because I won't. It's a choice. I won't settle for just doing the day, just doing the job, yeah. And I guess that's been driven by people who didn't settle, and that's they're kind of who. And I've seen a lot of I've seen the consequence of not going all out, of playing it safe, keeping your head down.
And I guess one of the plus sides of coming from the background that you came from is that actually you didn't have the option of playing it safe, because that was never there. You really,
that's interesting.
You had not. Sorry, my cat's about to gate crash.
Hello, pussycat. What's new, pussycat?
They have a sixth sense that they're doing something.
Diva.
But it's that. I always think, like, if I look back on my own life and the times that I've made, what people see are the bravest decisions. They're not really brave. It's that actually I didn't have a safety net.
Yes.
To give you a really brief example, when I was 23, I bought a one-way ticket to go to Hong Kong. I had no one there. I had no job. I had no home, nothing. I'd never been there before. And I'd say that to people, and they're like, that's really brave. I said, well, it wasn't actually, because I dropped out of uni. My friends had all done it to me because one lied that I slept with someone's boyfriend and I hadn't. And I went to a career officer, and she said, well, maybe you can get some admin work as a secretary, because you left your degree, so you're not really qualified for anything. And I could see my life shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
Yeah.
The passion or ambition I had was sucked from me. And I just thought, it's either that is accept that life, or it's do something. And so I was in such a miserable place that was totally against anything I saw in myself or I wanted for my life, that actually buying a ticket it wasn't a brave thing, it was an escape.
Right.
So for you, it's a kind of similar thing in that you didn't have a safety net. You had to go brave and go big and go out. And maybe that has become part of your personality. It's you're not afraid, because once you do it once, so I lived in for 5 years and I absolutely loved it, and it made me. Having done that once and succeeded means that I'm always happy to take that leap. You know, it's not a brave thing now, because I know that it works.
Right.
You make it work out, actually. It doesn't work out, you make it work out. And
so your confidence comes from doing something and it working.
Yes.
And then the next time you face something, you think, it worked last time.
Yeah.
Last time I was brave.
It wasn't necessarily easy. It wasn't like I landed and people laid a golden rose for me. You know, it was hard at times, but I did it. And I knew I had those resources in me, and I knew that you can take a risk.
Right, right.
For you, not having that safety net, and you either kind of go, I'm going to repeat my mother's life, I'm going to find refuge in this small life, but actually something in me doesn't want it. And the teachers showing me an alternative. Or the only alternative I can is go big.
I wonder, you see that, honestly, I talk to people all the time about this. I think about this a lot. I've never considered that. And because choice is I've got a whole chapter on choice in my book, and choice is it's very emotive, because in the one sense, I want to believe, I always feel with choice, like I talk to prisoners, and I was in prison with these guys, and they're like big and hairy and, you know, Russian and gold teeth. And I'm thinking, if it all kicks off, there's me and these two old ladies here at the education department. Clearly, I'm expected to defend it. And I was sitting there thinking, you know, are there cameras in this? But it was an incredible experience the first time. And I spoke to these guys, and they've all had the same story of, you know, going up in care, blah, blah, system rejecting, blah, blah, end up in life crap. It's textbook. And I said to them, I thought, I don't know what I can offer. And I said, you know, listen, I know what it's like for the world to owe you a living. And the way you've been treated, you're perfect within your rights to be bitter and twisted and cynical. And there's no but, that's it. You are perfectly within your rights. Hear me. That's definitely. There's no but. There is an and. And if you want something better than that, then you have to do something different. It's just how it works. And I want to feel like there's no choice, because I made this option because there's no choice, because that's kind of a get out. But it's like, you know, Malala had a gun to her head, and there's always a choice. You know, even when there's a gun to your head, there's a choice. And what's interesting is I always see choices like this massive circle window, and you're leaning on it, just your breast mostly. And if you just doze off or go on automatic for a minute, if you just go into it, you've made that choice. And sometimes it's the only choice. People think I've got no choice because it's the biggest one and it's right in front of them. But actually, there are tiny, tiny circles of choice all the way around this. There's thousands of them. And you often can't find them without help, someone shining a light on it or explain. And sometimes you've fallen down. You can't even make the obvious choice because you're so tired. And it's only when you look up, you notice these little things. And I wonder if it's that, you know, with your friends rejecting you at that age, when you've set on this course, this path, and suddenly it's like, there's the big choice I had has gone, and now it's, you know, all that's left is everything is impossible. So suddenly there's a level playing field. And when I was at uni, I was homeless every time the holidays came, and I could have gone to stay with friends, surfing, but I had too much ego, and I was too proud. So I was walking down the streets one day, juggling had just come in, and I couldn't afford juggling balls. And it looked pretty easy. So I bought some rice and balloons, and I made juggling balls, and I stood on the street, and I couldn't afford to photocopy anything. So I wrote out, jazzy jugglers are guaranteed teach you to juggle in 15 minutes or your money back. And I stood in the street and I taught myself to juggle. And then I started selling these juggling balls and said, I'm a teacher, I can teach you something. So guaranteed. So I was young and gorgeous and confident-ish. So I had all these young guys coming up to me, and I'm teaching them how to juggle, selling them for $5, making it work. Someone comes up to me, a mum with 2 kids, and said, do you do children's parties? I said, yes, I do. And then I went home, I'm like, right, what do I need? Went to a junkyard, got myself some overalls and all bits. I made a Ghostbuster outfit. But and someone says to me, oh, you know, you've been so lucky. And I'm like, yeah, it's funny, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Or other people say, oh, you're so resilient. And I say, it's funny how creative you get and resourceful you get when you've got no money to eat. You know, it's those times when I have grown the most, when I've been up against it. And I think in that situation you're talking about, that was a real, every crisis is just an opportunity, isn't it? And that was a real opportunity to say, everything you wanted to do has stopped. Your support group is not there. Your family will always love you in some way or another. But basically your future's not there. And all you've got left is this tiny, tiny life. So that's it. And then at that stage, it's kind of, right. You know, suddenly it's a different view. And so it's such an interesting question, because I want to feel there's something in me that's made me, you know, I always think the skills of an entrepreneur and the talents of someone who's survived foster care and the sort of life I've had are kind of the same thing, you know. So if we could learn how to create those, that would be a real service.
Absolutely. And I think also it's about reframing and thinking about like, particularly, you know, with Talented Ladies Club, we're there for women who have children. And
yes,
one of the things that inspired me to start it was that so I've always been, you know, similar to you, a really resourceful person. I'm creative, I'm resourceful, I'm determined. I don't want to accept less than what I want, you know.
Yeah.
I never wanted a life that's compromised. You know, I don't want a speedboat in a mansion. I just want to have a life. And I wasn't prepared to do things that I didn't want to do. So when I had children, and when I had my son, I was a single mom. Then I, you know, got my daughter now with my partner. But so I was always very resourceful, and I saw friends really struggle. So I started Talented Ladies Club because I wanted to show women that they didn't have to accept when they were mum, they didn't have to accept status quo, and that actually they could be creative and brave and resourceful. And I think there's something in, if women are watching this now, and you're in a situation where you're not in a job that you love, you're having to make life is uncomfortable for you in some way.
Yeah.
That actually you can use that discomfort in a positive way. So the cat's thinking. And the sun is not playing anyway. I should have the lines up before, like you've cleverly done. But the point is that I'm not very good at planning. The point is that you can actually use a position of discomfort. Instead of accepting it, think, well, actually, if I feel like I haven't got much in life right now, if I haven't got a job that fits with me or love anymore, if I haven't got what I feel is a career, actually, can I use that in a positive way? Well, actually, I've got less to lose. So I could be...
Yeah. And it's scary, though. It's scary. I think that's the thing, especially when you've got kids. Like every maternity leave, and I've done 3. I only have 3 children. I don't just take them for a laugh. But every maternity leave, I've seen it as... Like my first one, I was going to drop kick the baby and get back to work. I was just like, I just want to be a teacher. Don't know how to do this parenting thing. And I changed my mind. And also, it wasn't just that. It was that I couldn't be the teacher I wanted to be and the mum I wanted to be at the same time. And because it's frowned upon to leave your kids in a box by the church, I really didn't have a choice about the mum bit. So I thought, okay, the game that I have is so... I was in an independent school at the time. They were playing hardball. They were like, no part-time, no job share, no, you're coming back. And the game was set up for me to lose. And I thought, so what do you do when the game is set up for you to lose? You play a different game. You play a game with rules that give you a chance. So instead of seeing it as, oh, I've got this baby, I'm doing, I actually set up my business on maternity leave because I was at home. And yes, I was busy and I had stuff to do, but I also had a baby that, you know, slept now and again. And when I'd finished, I mean, I'm not painting it rosy. It was pretty tough and strong. But what I loved was about teaching, what I loved was, I didn't love the admin, didn't love the planning, didn't love the assessment. What I loved was the engagement and supporting my colleagues. So I thought, well, how can I take the best bit of what I love about my job and be the person I want to be? I don't want to be dropping them off at 6 and picking them up at 7 every night like I see friends doing. I don't want that life. I haven't signed up for that. I don't want that. And that's when I thought, okay, so what I like doing is I like talking about phonics and literacy. I'm passionate about reading, writing, spelling being tools for success. So I'll do that. So I set up a couple of talks. I said, can I come in and talk? I said, and my business, and that was the first day, because I always did sort of bits when I was employed, but I've never been employed since. I've been running a business for 24 years. Is that how long it is? 20 odd years since I was 24. So it just feels, odd to kind of, And then I'm at school and I'm doing the school run with mums, because my big thing is I like to take my kids to school. I love it. And I used to hate the school run because it was pressure, and 3 different schools took me an hour and a half. And it's like the French resistance. It's a struggle and people will die, but we'll get there in the end. It was like that every morning. And then I sort of flipped it and reframed it. I thought, what if this was the time I had to spend with my kids? What if this was my time? So I always, before we got out of the car, I try and make each one of them laugh, which is really easy with my teenagers. I just be myself. They find that funny. And my 5-year-old, I can just pull funny faces or fart, and he thinks that's hilarious. So I started to find ways, just like, how can I make them laugh, and have I made eye contact? And that's kind of what I aim for. But then I get to school and I speak to mums, and I do like phonics talks at my kids' schools as well. And so all the mums know me, and they go, oh, you're incredible, and you do all this stuff, and don't know how you find the time, and you're always so busy. And I think, well, 1, I'm busy but not harassed. 2, you know, what you're passionate about doesn't have to be parked because you're a parent. Nice bit of alliteration. You know, I understand. I've got 3 children. I understand the passion. And it's not like I don't think that being a mum and being at home isn't fulfilling. I love that too. That's why I built my own life. I looked at my life and thought, what would a good one look like?
Yes.
And the maternity leave is actually, if you've got a job, maternity leave is a really good time to do it, because you're getting some form of money while you come up with something else. And it's not about taking a massive loan. I've never had a bank loan or borrowed money or got money from a trust or anything. I've always generated income from what I've got. And actually, I think maternity leave is an incredible time to focus in on, what do you actually want? What does life look like for you now? How do we make this work? And don't give in to that thing of, oh, well, what I have to do is put my child in childcare and go back to work full time and cry and use my milk pump in the cupboard. And it's like, yeah, that's an option. And there are other choices. There are other choices. Yeah. You know, you read that woman about, she's on with, she took a baby backpacking. She just set off and went around the world. I don't know what her partner's think that, hasn't got one.
That maternity leave is a really creative time, because there are very few times in your life where you press pause.
Yes.
And it's one of those times. And then you get perspective and you look, actually, does my job really fulfill me? And I think you make a brilliant point about time. And it's like, the people who make a success of things don't have any more time. They are driven by a passion, so they make time. So when we set up Towns Ladies Club, I did it with my friend Carrie. There were 2 of us, and between us we had 3 children. And so we met when you were pregnant. Our daughters were 3, and they weren't in full-time nursery. Wow. Both of us had financial burden, so we worked full-time as freelancers from home. And we built TLC and came up with the idea and built it in 4 months. And we built it because I did this exercise that I get people to do, and I worked out what I did with every 15 minutes of my week. I worked out I spent about 2 hours on Facebook.
Researching.
I know, I'm really ashamed to admit this, but I used to sit, like, because I was like at home and I wasn't working in London anymore, I was just working for myself. I felt like the outside world was so far away. So I used to spend like hours. My boyfriend used to joke that he would go out for a bike ride, come home 2 hours later, and I'd be sat reading the Daily Mail sidebar of shame, you know, like clicking on, you know, who's wearing what. And like, I thought, I can't believe I'm
wow.
But do you know what? But I looked at kind of things that weren't actually taking, like, that were like keeping me stagnating.
Yes, yeah.
So I thought, do you know what? If I take away like watching shit TV, going on Facebook, if I take away the Daily Mail, which is always a good thing.
You're the woman you are, Hannah.
Exactly. But I suddenly had all this free time. And that was the thing, is it's about priorities, isn't it? If we really want to do something and we're passionate about it, it doesn't, and it actually gives us more energy. And there's something about being, like you talked about, being yourself. And I think when you live a life that is authentically you are doing the things that you love, and you feel free, the choices you make free within that life, you've got more to give your kids. Not only but you know, the times when I'm stressed with my children, it's when my life isn't working for me and I'm not making choices. I feel hemmed in some way. But when I'm living a life that, you know, my life is so busy. I'm working 7 days a week, but because I want to.
Yes.
I love it. It's
choice. And I think with the whole thing with the kids, we like to think that all these mummy and toddler groups we go to and all their stuff and all their manners we teach them, and that we're having this huge impact on their lives. And actually, most of the data they get is from watching us and you know, looking at the data, because and that plays back. They're just video cameras, just video everything, and then they play it back to you. So we've got questions on our kitchen wall when we sit for dinner. There are questions like, you know, what do you wish your parents did more of or less of? What have parents forgotten? What don't they know anymore? What, you know, and we have conversations about this. And I've learned more in that time listening to my kids reflecting back their observations of myself as a mum, as a person, as an adult, than I have doing everything else. And actually, it's like my nan used to say, when I used to say I haven't got enough time, she'd say, yeah, it's funny how much time you save when you stop doing things that are a complete waste of time. And I think if I count up the things that have been resourceful for me, they're the things that have made me happy. That, like my 5-year-old said to me the other day, this is my shame, as you've shared the daily meal. He said to me, we were sat at the table, and he said something got said, and I laughed out loud, like uncontrollable. And he said, Mummy, I love it when you laugh. And I thought, immediately, I'm like, oh, I don't laugh, I'm a terrible mum. But I thought, you know, I've actually been quite stressed about silly things, and that stopped me from laughing. And even a 5-year-old can tell that when you're following your passions and dreams, you're happier. So how come I can't work that out as a 46-year-old? I'm not letting my 5-year-old like out cool me ever again. I'm going to get that sorted. And it's that idea of, how do you be the best you? Is it by pushing yourself again and again and staying late and doing that last bit of work and not going to bed? And really, that's how you create the best person? And I just think, I imagine myself having conversations with my kids as adults and saying, you know, and not justifying, but explaining my reasons for doing what I did. I want to have a conversation with my daughter about why I've worked, why I've traveled around, why I've taken her with me to see me speak. You know, I want to have a conversation with her as an adult. And I don't want it to be, I played a really small game because I was scared. I don't want that to be what I leave my daughter.
And I think also, that it is so important, because your children are like sponges, and they are building their sense of self based on the kind of examples you're setting. But I think there's also something really important, you know, you talked about, you know, working late, and I think women are particularly bad at this, is letting go of perfect. Work out what and what is not. So there are things that just, you know, like for example, like my daughter has got to come to school as a female icon on Wednesday. Guaranteed she'll be the worst dressed. It will be prepared. But the thing is, it's like, I don't actually really care that much about it. But the great thing is she doesn't either, because she sees I don't have no anxiety about it. I don't really care.
Yeah.
If someone's going to judge me, those aren't things that I value as important. Let them judge me, because if they do judge me on that, they're not people I care about, to be honest.
True.
Of people that I admire, and my children. She picks up on that. But there are some things that you know, like, if you try and do everything perfect, you will do nothing perfect, because you can't.
You know, have you seen Marie Folio? She does Marie TV and stuff, and there's a hashtag I picked up with her which said progression, not perfection. It's not about progress, it's about being perfect. It's progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection. And I thought, God, that's good. Because what perfection, my desperation to do the best I can all the time, sometimes what it means is that I do nothing because it might not be the best, so I won't try. And what I realise is that just getting moving that's how you generate. It's the momentum that builds up. It's not about sitting there and not, you know, like my book I'm writing, not showing anyone because it might not be good enough. But I show one person and they go, that's good. Oh, you could try this. You don't need that. And suddenly it becomes better. But because I did something, not because I sat obsessing over it. And I think if I did that 15-minute thing, mine would be worry. The amount of time I spend worrying about something that hasn't happened yet. Just like at the minute, I'm consumed with the fact that there's 4 days at the end of January when I'm in California and Ed's got to go to Dubai with work, and I'm speaking, and I'm like, I'm telling myself about that. I'm a terrible person. I don't deserve it. Why am I going anyway? Who wants to listen to you? All this, and this is 2 months away. It's like, maybe I should invest that time in something productive. Who knows?
Absolutely. Do you know, when I fell pregnant with my son, I was married at the time. My husband was an immigrant, and I tried really hard, and I just got him on an apprenticeship to be an electrician, and then I found out I was pregnant. And I was the breadwinner, so there was no, and I worked in London, it's a 14-hour day, so there was no childcare that would fit it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, I don't know what I'm going to do. I didn't want to take him out of the apprenticeship, because I'd fought really hard to get this. And I knew it could be something that would be transformational for our lives. It wasn't, because he was there's a good reason why he's an ex-husband. Anyway.
We've all been there.
Yeah. So when I found out I was pregnant, I just thought, what am I going to do when I have to go back to work? And then part of me just went, do you know what? It's so many months away. A solution will come up. I trusted that I would find a solution. Yeah. I probably couldn't think of right now. And there was no point worrying about it now, because it was wasted worry. And actually, a solution did turn up, and it was fine. And you make it fine. You know, you. It's not like a solution locks upon you, but you do your bit to find it.
Yeah.
But you realise that actually, no, with you, like a solution, you will find a solution. So there's no point really worrying about it now, because you're not, don't worry, do.
And the worry just stops you. You can't be resourceful. You can't be resourceful. If your head's down with your hands, you're missing everything. All the good stuff.
When you worry, you shut down parts of your brain. Parts of your brain are filling up. And if you go to fight or flight mode, like literally your higher cortex closes down. You're focusing on the things you need to survive. So you're halving your intelligence.
Yeah. And sometimes what you're starting with isn't great. So to halve it and limit yourself to that kind of total fear, worry, it doesn't make any sense. But I think so. I think it's very resourceful being honest. This is my thing about what my job requires me to be authentic. I'm the product of that. But what people want is they want authenticity, but they don't want what comes hand in hand with it, which is vulnerability. Everybody wants to be authentic without being vulnerable, and you can't. So the vulnerability of me saying, I really struggle with worry. I was talking to a friend a few weeks ago, and I said at the beginning of the year, I have anxiety sometimes rears up. And I have things to cope with it. I do meditation, I do yoga, I talk to people, but it just wasn't working. It was getting really bad. So I went to see a therapist, because I've seen therapists in the past on and off, and some's been good, some's been bad. So I went to see a therapist, and it's been really resourceful. It's been really useful. Got some new techniques, and I'm doing better. And she said to me, you went to see a therapist? You get anxiety? And I'm like, why would I not? I mean, it's surprising that you would think that's surprising to me. But and I know mental health's got this kind of stigma anyway, and that's why I've started doing these videos, these what if 2-minute videos where I just ask a question. The first one I did was, what if mental health was just something we talked about? What if it wasn't such a stigma? Because if you break your leg and you sat there going, oh no, I won't make a fuss, you're an idiot. But if your anxiety is crippling you, but you think, oh well, then you are also an idiot, because there is resource that you can tap into through your doctor, through the NHS, through other ways. And it just surprised me that people expect that I just wake up one day and I do wake up looking like this, I've got to say that, but I wake up and I'm just really resourceful, because this is a choice. I have to choose. Up until last year, I had to choose to be positive every morning. I wake up and I make a conscious choice, because my default setting is misery. It's been that for years, and I choose not to live like that. And it's only recently, which is bizarre, that I've been being more authentic, and that my work has turned from literacy into speaking and sharing my story. Suddenly I don't have to make the choice. I wake up and I'm already there. That's huge. That's huge. And I think it is from really getting to grips with just asking yourself the question, what in school we have a thing called a waggle, but it's like Blue Peter, where you show them something, we're going to build this, and you show them, and then we reverse engineer how to build it. And I always think of waggles in terms of people. Waggle stands for what a good one looks like. I sort of say, what does a good Jaz look like? What does a good Hannah look like? And at any point in time, that could be different. When you're pregnant, when you've had the baby, when the baby's 3, it always looks different. But if you can stop and ask yourself that question and rejig and reframe and refocus and pivot.
But I do know that is such an important point, because I was giving a talk at the weekend just about this, came up as part of it. If you don't have an idea of where you want to be and what you want to be, you'll never get there. It's like driving and you don't know where you want to drive to. Where are you going to go? And you do have to have an idea, a vision. If you just kind of go, well, this is it, this is what I'm accepting, this is who I am. And you don't kind of go, well, actually, dare to think this is who I want to be. And again, I would love, this is how I'd like to be. I'm going to have a really clear vision of this, and I'm going to hold this vision. I'm going to think about it constantly. It's in my mind of how I want to feel and how I want to be. You will start, as you have, over time, that becomes, I used to be really, really shy, and I hated being shy. And I became more confident. But by wanting to be, knowing what that felt like and acting that way, it becomes authentic. It becomes your true personality. But if you don't have a vision of what that is going to be, of like the Jaz you want to be, you're stuck where you are, aren't you?
And being busy stops you from having the time. I get that it's busy and you kind of have to live on automatic. But Women Ed, which is like in leadership, in education, they looked at education and thought, there's not many women in leadership. I wonder why that is. And started unpicking it and sort of formed a grassroots organisation. And it kind of came from a talk that one of them heard, where Sue Cowley asked the audience, what would it look like if we were all just 10% braver? And I love that, because it's so doable. And 10% braver for some could just be speaking up in a meeting. 10% braver for others could be, I don't know, challenging Donald Trump to run in America. I mean, you know, whatever your 10% braver is, but just 10% braver than now.
Yeah.
What would that look like? And I think when you can,
you know what, I think that is absolutely brilliant. And if like that, to me, out of this chat that we've had, is the kind of like, I think like if someone was watching this and wanted to take away one thing to do,
that's
and
it.
I think absolutely brilliantly that how today and this week and this month and this year, how can you be 10% braver, and then think, what will that get me?
Yes.
And go and do it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
10% braver than that, and 10% braver than that, and don't stop.
But it's the first 10%. It's just focus on the next step, because I think we try and eat the elephant, but just the next. What would that look like? Just 10% braver. What could happen?
Yeah,
and then
and it like you say, it's that 10% brave in making one phone call this week.
Yeah, one decision.
Yeah, and I think actually on a Monday morning that would be a really good thing, is to sit down and go, right, what is my 10% thing this week going to be?
That, yeah, definitely. Before you do anything else, and then that drives your other actions. You might get sucked into email stuff, but that 10%, you stick it on your computer, and that drives your decision making for the week. And then look at how different it is on the Friday at the end.
So I'm going to ask you.
I'm going to do that.
I know. I'm asking you. So what's your 10% thing?
10%. Do you know what I struggle with? It's I know this sounds bizarre. Getting on the phone to people who've booked to chat with me, like on my website they book, and I get so anxious about talk. If I can avoid making a phone call, I'll do it. I'd rather email or text than phone call. And actually, when I do make the phone calls, it goes really well, because I'm speaking to someone. Like this morning has given me so much energy just from talking to someone who shares the same point of view as me. I kind of feel I'm not freaky, I'm not alone, I'm not weird. This is great. I can, like, when I read Talent Lady's blog, I'm like, oh my gosh, people think like me. This is fantastic. This is my tribe. So I think it's that. It's to my 10% bravery is to connect. I'm not even going to wait till I have to make a call. I'm going to call someone I don't actually need to call. I'm going to just connect with someone. That's my
random people. Hello, who's that?
I'm like, what do you want? Nothing. But it's the fear of being rejected, I guess. But that's that. My 10% bravery this week is to look for opportunities to connect and not run from them. So what's yours?
Well, so mine is actually, do you know what? I was trying to think while you were talking, like, oh my God, what can I say?
Have mine.
I had more time than you. But actually, do you know what? I have been thinking about offering one-to-ones with me to our Facebook group.
Fantastic.
Always shied away, kind of going, but why don't anyone want one-to-one with me? And do you know what? My 10% thing is I'm actually going to put it in motion this week.
Just offer service.
I know. My business coach and I have been talking about it for a while, and she's like kind of prodding me, and I'm like, yeah, tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. So I'm going to do it this week.
You know what? You should definitely do it, because you are such a resourceful person. You're an amazing person, and you not doing it is you're being a bit selfish, to be honest. And that's not your value, is it?
That's a brilliant reframe. Thank you.
Well, I just think keeping your availability from people when you could offer real reserve is a little bit selfish. So yeah, you should stop doing that. Don't be selfish. Because okay, that's great. So I'm going to go in the Facebook group and I'm going to look out for that.
Okay.
And say, oh,
you have to let me know when you made that phone call in that case.
Oh gosh. Okay. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I already know who I'm going to call. I'm going to do it today, and I'm going to ping you and go, I did it. So yeah.
I will look up your email. Oh, Jaz, it's so lovely. I could literally talk to you all day.
Oh no, thank you so much. I mean, I just, it's an honour. TLC is one of a kind. It really is. There are lots of things out there to engage people, but you can feel that what you do is done with heart and done from a position of, we're experiencing this ourselves. What we're saying is what we feel, and I think that is what makes it so engaging and unique. So thank you for all the fabulous resource you share.
And you know what? And I, since I saw your TED talk, I've wanted to talk to you, and I think your story is amazing, and you are a very extremely resilient and creative person.
Thank you.
And I think the message that that I see you sharing on Twitter, I think is fantastic.
Oh, well, that's brilliant, because I do wonder if anyone reads what I write. So now I know it's you. Liking everything. I'll keep going.
Brilliant. And maybe we can do in the new year, do a webinar and do a class with you and do that if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. Because just before we go to the 10% brave thing, I had the same thing with my mini mentorship course. I'm like, why would anyone want me to coach them? It's a stupid idea. And actually it was, I got so much out of the first group in the fact that I realized the resource. And then the same thing happened. It ended, and I thought, no one else wants to know. But actually, a webinar is on the back of my mind. That was my promise to myself in January. It's November. It has.
I will send you an email. We will get it booked in.
Okay. Oh my gosh, you are my 10% braver. It's just you. You need to get a T-shirt with it on.
I'll just email you every week, going, "What is it this week?
What have you done?" Fantastic. Thank you so much, Hannah. It's so good to talk to you.
And you. So lovely to talk to you. And I hope we both got 6 sons today. So I hope your son starts feeling better.
Yes, I'm sure he is. Dad's back now. So I'm sure there's some special healing going on in the form of PlayStation.
Yeah, exactly. Well, have a lovely day.
Thank you. You too.
I look forward to your email when you've made your call.
It will be coming.
Bye, Jaz.
Bye.
Bye.
Fantastic.